Well, I guess I just sit here and listen to the music go. Let's see if our voices are going over. What do you think?
Oh, yep. I just heard him on the stream, so I think we're good.
That's pretty weird. Yeah, I have a thing set up so I can hear what OBS is sending, and it sure seemed like that music was going out, but it sure seemed like people on the stream couldn't hear it. So okay, well, you know, what if I'm not good for you? Good for you. What if you're not good for me? Yeah, yeah. Anyway, welcome to the live stream.
How's it going today, Joshua? How you doing?
Well, I'll be doing better if we had all got to enjoy the music. But yeah, I'm doing good. It was no kidding 67 degrees in Knoxville today. That's Fahrenheit units. That's like 19 Celsius, I think.
There's like 3 inches of snow outside here, so.
Shit, 19.4. I'm getting better at my Celsius conversions. Well, you know, you come move down here to Knoxville, and yeah. Yeah, so I got a little flying in. I flew a quadcopter that Mark Spatz, UAV Tech, he tuned it because he has a tuning service. So I was like, nice. Why don't you tune my quad? See if you can do it better than me, Mr. Smarty Pants. And I'm not going to give away the ending, but it'll be on my channel soon. So
awesome.
How about you?
He's awesome, man. I'm doing good. Just dealing with the snow, you know, that sort of thing. Checking out the news.
That's what you get for living in Denver?
Yeah.
I guess there's some pros to living in Denver, but 86 in Miami says CSMIC fool in the Discord. I mean, but that's, you have to live in Florida. So I feel like, I mean, is Miami really a part of Florida?
Yeah, I think Florida is 3 distinct parts. Like that's what I'm from Florida. I was born and raised in Florida. I don't know if you know that.
I did not.
Yeah, I think Florida is 3 distinct parts. I think they said that on 30 Rock. But yeah, there's like an upper section of Florida that's basically Alabama and Georgia.
Yes.
And then there's
correct.
A middle section of Florida that's old people and that sort of thing. And then the south section of Florida, which is Miami and like all the poppin' stuff and like the coastal stuff and immigrants and stuff. So
which one is the section where all the crazy stuff happens?
North Florida.
North?
That's been my experience is North Florida because it's like Alabama. Nobody's like actually like Florida. You know, I don't know.
Interesting. Interesting.
It's a real mess there. That's for sure.
Well, anyway. Hello, Florida. Anybody out there from Florida? Del Boca Vista. Thank you, Orga. Oh my God, Nathan Hawk and one other person who I missed, Orga A. Did we put the Dave C 1S micro long range? We mentioned that last week.
Yeah, we did that last week.
Okay, is there any more news about it? We mentioned that it existed. Let's check for next week and make sure we get that. But yeah, that's exciting. We did talk about that. Well, speaking of what we're going to do this week, what are we going to do this week? What kind of news items are we going to talk about?
So we are going to talk about a GoPro remote project based on ESP32. So this may be another solution for the ProTune mishap that we all are aware of, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
FalcoX is now available for a lot of different flight controllers, and they're slowly adding more targets for that. So that's pretty cool. Yeah,
if you've wanted to try FalcoX, but you don't have a Flight 1 flight controller, now you may have a chance. It's exciting.
It looks like Dominic Clifton is working on a new flight controller, possibly with the SX1280 chip integrated for ExpressLRS on the board. So that seems pretty cool.
Anything he makes is at least worth a look.
Absolutely. UAV Tech has a video comparing the latency and consistency of all our favorite radio transmitter protocols. So we'll check those out and see how those stack up.
He, I'm not going to spoil the piece, but he said FrSky ACCESS was the best, and I feel like that alone is a newsworthy claim. So we'll get into that.
Maybe have a reason why that might be. FatTech has a drift car project out, which is pretty cool. They put out a little manual for it on a project for a drift car.
All right.
DRL Racer 4 style quad is on Kickstarter from Onward FPV. He's trying to reboot the Racer 4 Street project, similar to that.
Yeah, very important to call that a Racer 4 style quad to avoid any kind of trademark issues.
ImpulseRC released the Micro Apex 3-inch and 4-inch, so we'll talk about that. That's pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
TBS released their Agent Lite software. That seems pretty interesting and possibly sign of things to come.
TBS Agent, but it runs on your Tango too. So,
yeah.
Okay.
And then, last but not least, AirMap is possibly encouraging local municipalities to charge you for takeoff and landing. Talk about that.
Yeah. Someone in the Discord is pointing out that the very first item on our list, the GoPro remote, when you click the link, it says it's not available. Is that a private link, Blunty? Does it go to a group maybe that you can't?
Yeah, that's going to be the TBS Lounge group.
I see. So you need to be. Yeah, I can see it. If you're not in the TBS Lounge, let me just put it up. We'll get to the first news item.
We'll pull the GitHub link. I'll put that in chat for everybody.
Okay, great. Hang on a second. Let me put this over here and put this over here, and then we'll put this over here, and then we will get to it. Boom. So I need a producer to run my scenes. So you guys may remember in a previous episode we ranted about GoPro removing the ability to adjust the ProTune settings from the GoPro app, which means that if you don't have a GoPro with an actual screen on it, then you cannot. Hold on, I'm talking to the camera, but you can't see my face. There we go. Hang on, wait, there we go. Which means if you have a GoPro, when you don't have a screen on it, you can't adjust the ProTune settings. Just can't do it. And a lot of us have GoPros that don't have screens on them, whether that's a naked GoPro or a session. And GoPro's response is basically F you. But
yeah. And so there were some other options like backloading apps and, doing, routing on phones and stuff and, different options. And so for a lot of users, maybe this will be a different option for you. You can basically make a remote out of an ESP32 board with an OLED screen, or it's like a TTGO T or TTGO-T device, I think they sell them as, with a screen on them. And essentially just makes a remote for your GoPro. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm putting some video of it up here. This little device here. Is this an Arduino device, I think? Is that right?
ESP32. I'm not sure what that
basically
is.
You just buy one of these for a couple bucks and you flash some code to it using your computer, and then it has Bluetooth built in, and it can just
I believe that's how it's working. Yeah.
Control your camera. So the idea is, I guess, that you would hang on a second. Let me fix that. There we go. The idea, I guess, is that you would connect your phone over Wi-Fi so that you could see the screen in real time. And you would connect this thing over Bluetooth to let you make the changes. And then, get back the functionality that you really wanted.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that we have to do stuff like this, but people are definitely making some projects to solve these issues. So.
Yeah. So there's a link to that. And we'll add, there's not currently a link to the GitHub project down in the show notes. Let me real quick. Did you paste that in the chat? Yeah, let me get that. I'm going to add that real quick to the to the show notes, and it'll be in the video description if you want to check it out. Hang on one second. Let me just throw that in here real quick, and then everybody can go there and get that. What are some other? There were some other choices that came up for people to work around this. One of them was to just download an old version of the app.
Yeah, and so for an Android user, that's no problem. You can just install an APK. But for an iOS user, for an iPhone user, you might have to have what do they call it, jailbroken phone to be able to do that. So that may be a step that users don't want to take. There's also an option for an app called BLE Remote, and that seems to be another option that people are using for this.
Yeah, the downside of BLE Remote being that you can't see the screen because you have to be in the GoPro app to see the screen. So I BLE Remote developer, I was begging him to add the ability to preview the screen, and I heard back from somebody that he was like, yeah, I could do that, but I'm kind of busy with university right now, so I guess I get that. Anyway, Dominic Clifton is here. Isn't that exciting?
Awesome.
Because in a minute, we're going to talk about his project. But first, have you flown FalcoX, Blunty?
I have not actually flown FalcoX. I have some Flight 1 flight controllers, some of the Revolts, but I have not flown FalcoX.
Yeah, I've flown it a couple times. It's pretty good. Is it better than Flight 1? I don't know. But it's where Flight 1's going. And a whole lot of people would like to try FalcoX, but they can't because
they can't get a flight controller.
It's always out of stock.
Yeah, that seems to be the thing. Order a flight controller and wait, which is, you know, cool for Flight 1. But if you wanted to try FalcoX and that wasn't an option for you before, you know, now you can. So now you can buy a license for $15 off their website. They've got a list of all the possible targets, all the places you can install this thing to.
Yeah.
Seems pretty cool.
Yeah, the idea is that it has always been possible to make FalcoX run on other hardware. They just haven't authorized it because they wanted you to buy their flight controllers. And I mean, I imagine the way this conversation went is, our stuff has been out of stock forever. What are we going to do? People are mad at us. We're losing sales. And then finally they're like, fine, screw it. So for $15, you can get this license. And if you're on this list, you can run FalcoX. And, you know, it's exciting. Dominic Clifton pointing out you can also run FalcoX on the SP Racing H7 Extreme, his flight controller. That is true.
Very true.
Tim Proctor, you can still preview live. The BLE app, you can still preview live, but you have to be running the GoPro app at the same time. Yeah. I saw you see your comment in all caps, so I wanted to acknowledge it. But So anyway, yeah. What's the advantage of FalcoX? Asks Nathan P. Nathan P. One of the advantages of FalcoX has been that it uses just one flight controller, so wiring it up is consistent. If you knew how to wire up a Flight 1 flight controller, you never had to think, where does my receiver go? I guess that's going to go out the window. They're going to need to create documentation for all these different flight controllers, aren't they, Blunty?
Yeah, I think so, and I think that's why their support is like slowly coming in for all this stuff. I would assume at least that's the case, why they're slowly adding all these targets. But yeah, I mean, you know, the part of the point of FalcoX is that everything just kind of works. You know, you set it up and it's got the OSD and you do OSD based setup, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So there is a PC based app you can download, and it essentially emulates the OSD, but the entire interface of FalcoX is in the OSD. So the dream is that you get a flight controller and it already has FalcoX on it. You plug the flight controller in, you wire up your receiver, and then you just put your goggles on and you go to the right channel, and there's the OSD, and it says, I'm going to auto detect your receiver, and it auto detects your receiver, and it just does the whole setup right there in the goggles. You never need a PC. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Now everybody can check it out.
Yeah. Male Radic wants to know if he saw you in DCL. Did he see you in DCL? No. Okay. Well, somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's exciting. Thank you. I've always wished that FalcoX was available on more hardware because I just like open source stuff and open stuff. So they've finally done it. All right. What's next? Here, I'm going to get this picture up, Blunty. Why don't you give us a
we're moving on to a new project by Dominic Clifton. He posted this he's in our chat actually. He posted in the ExpressLRS Discord some images of his new flight controller. I actually got a little more info than that if you scroll down to the next picture.
Sure.
Yeah, so he's got just a little farther, sorry.
Sorry, yeah,
and
no problem.
He's got a little explanation of some of the things there. So it looks like he's going to integrate ExpressLRS on this board. Maybe he can give us some more information in the chat. But it looks like it's probably going to have the SX1280 chip on it, and then it will have ExpressLRS integrated. So then you just install whatever flight controller software on it.
Yeah.
And it should be good to go.
I guess the idea is that it's going to have the hardware pre-installed, and it's going to have some kind of a driver interface. And so then the software will interface with it as if there was a discrete receiver, but instead of maybe connecting through a UART, maybe it connects through SPI or something like that, or I2C. The bottom line is that and here's the thing, ExpressLRS, people love ExpressLRS, the people who've flown it, but one of the downsides is actually getting it installed. Flashing it is still a little bit of a hassle. So the ability to just have it built into the flight controller is pretty freaking exciting.
Yeah, any hardware support like this, I think, is excellent for something like ExpressLRS. Kind of gets us farther down that line in the project and gets more gets more availability of, boards to put it on and stuff to install it with, so you don't have to custom build stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's or find a way to flash, previous devices.
When is somebody going to just start selling ExpressLRS hardware? I mean, right now people are buying FrSky R9 hardware and flashing it. And obviously, if someone was just doing that and selling it, FrSky would have a hissy fit. But like, it can't be that hard to clone these things. FrSky cloned Crossfire, and that was... No, I'm just joking. I'm sorry. But how hard could it be to just sell ExpressLRS hardware into the market?
Right. Yeah, I think it's just about support. Making sure you have somebody who can actually like take care of the stuff, because if you want to sell like the components to build it yourself to solder, like in a solder kit, or if you want to sell it as like pre-soldered boards that are put together, either way, that's going to have some kind of end user support, I would think. And then Dominic Clifton in chat points out FCC certification is also possibly an issue, depending on how you're.
Good point.
Yeah.
Stupid FCC.
I wonder if a build your own kit counts like that, or if there's a component you can't sell them, or how any of that works.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, if you bought a build your own kit and it wasn't certified and you built it, you would be violating the law. But the FCC very seldom goes after individual users. So that's a good point. The R9 hardware is in fact FCC certified, and that gets you around it. So
for those guys in chat that don't know, ExpressLRS is just an alternative to a lot of the other receiver firmwares. So just like a Crossfire or an R9 or a Ghost or Tracer at this point. ExpressLRS actually has a 2.4 gigahertz and a 900 megahertz mode. There's like an open source version of those receiver firmware. So they have their own systems for doing packet transmission and frame rate and all those kind of things. And there's like a lot of open source development on that side of things. So seems like a super solid system. And I think the coolest thing about it is just that it's open source. So there's constant effort on it. There's constant work to it. And people like Tony Cake are putting out, they put out the Ghost receivers that actually have flashing pads for ExpressLRS. So people are actually like thinking about this a little bit at least. So Fatboy FPV points out in the chat, and I believe this is correct. He has fatboyfpv.com. He actually sells some boards right now that you can use to build ExpressLRS. I know he showed me that like a week ago. I forgot about that.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, we should put that in the show notes. Give me, what's it, Fatboy? Yeah, put that in the chat.
Sure.
Yeah, ExpressLRS is a ultra high performance long distance 900 and 2.4 gig link, similar to Tracer and Crossfire and Ghost, but like you said, open source. The big hurdle is that you have to flash it to your R9, and it takes a programming adapter. You can't just plug it into USB like you would hope. It's not the end of the world, but it does increase the barrier to entry just a little bit. But the performance results are pretty impressive, even compared to Tracer and Ghost. And that, I think, is going to segue us very nicely into the next topic. I didn't even mean to do that. Let me get that URL. Go ahead.
I've got that in the chat and in our show notes there. So UAV Tech actually put out a video comparing latency and consistency of all these different receiver protocols. So we've got Ghost, Tracer, FrSky ACCESS, ExpressLRS, all kinds of different comparisons in this video.
Yeah. Let me pull that video up, in fact, because there's a chart in here that I think is really interesting. And I don't want to steal his video entirely. So I'm not going to like show the whole video.
All right.
You can,
if you've
all right. You guys didn't hear that. You guys may have heard that actually. But let me. Yeah, because I've got Blunty's audio on. So this is Mr. Mark Spatz, UAV Tech. He's a super, super smart guy, and I dare say he is making the most in-depth content about black box logging and black box analysis today. There are lots of people out there who are probably smarter or as smart as him, but they're not. They're too busy actually working and not making YouTube videos. And I think anybody who's interested in PID tuning and black box log analysis should be checking out his YouTube channel, UAV Tech, and his website, theuavtech.com. I'm putting it in the 100%. Chat. But what he did is he took a whole bunch of black box logs and he compared the consistency of the packet timing, right? So you can see the latency, but also that sometimes there's longer jitter in the packets, if you will. Go ahead, Blunty.
So yeah, this goes over like a lot of the different things, and like you said, we don't necessarily have to spoil the whole video, but I think one of the interesting things he points out is that FrSky ACCESS is essentially locked pretty hardcore, and I believe it's like at 7 ms,
Yeah,
7 milliseconds.
I'm looking for the
It's fairly early in there, I think.
exact. Here we go. Here's a good comparison. So this is the comparison he did. These
Yeah, that
are
green
the
line
2.4
the
gig.
access.
Yeah. So this is Ghost, Tracer, FrSky ACCESS, and ExpressLRS in 2.4 gig. Go ahead, Blunty.
This is interesting. I did tell someone we were going to do this story before we came on, and somebody told me that there's a possibility, and I'm not sure if this checks for that, if they're doubling the same packet, because you could cheat this by doubling the same packet. And so if you sent like the same packet over and over again until you could get the next packet there, it would look very consistent, and it is consistent. But in theory, you're getting bad data from like different amounts of time away.
Yeah, yeah. So what the other protocols will do is if there is a packet that is lost, they will simply not transmit a packet, and you'll see a jump in the packet timing. If you want to, we're not saying that FrSky is doing this, but that was my first thought. My first thought when I saw how ridiculously, because even if you're perfectly consistent, you're going to have some dropped packets some of the time. You're never 100% without lost packets. So when I saw how ridiculously consistent FrSky's was, my thought was, I wonder if somebody's cheating, and doubling packets would be a way that you could cheat. Just retransmit the last packet. From the PID controller's perspective and the pilot's perspective, it's the same as if you had lost the packet, but it does look good on a graph. I don't know.
Yeah, that's my only suspicion with like how perfect access looks in this. But otherwise, I think this is a really cool comparison of the different, receiver protocols and stuff. This is a good kind of get you a good idea of where everything's at. And ExpressLRS, from this is really killing it pretty hard on the receiver protocol side of things.
I also want to look at the 900 megahertz chart. I'm sorry, I've screwed up my scenes. There we go. These are the 900 megahertz protocols, and you can see ExpressLRS is the red one. And notice that ExpressLRS is usually very, very consistent, but every so often, look, there's a little glitch. And this is kind of what I was talking about. Likewise, Crossfire is actually also really, really consistent. So maybe the fact that FrSky is so consistent is not inherently suspicious, but I would at least want to look at the data that was coming out to see if it was being repeated.
Yeah, 100%.
But we got to hand it to them. And Mark also hands it to them. FrSky has acknowledged this was a big problem with R9 specifically, inconsistent packet timing. If you want to know why it's a big deal, watch Mark's video. He goes into what's bad. Who cares? What's bad about it? He talks about that. And they fixed it, but they fixed it for the access radios only. They didn't go back and fix the older ACCST stuff. So,
This seems to be a common issue with FrSky. Leave everyone else behind and move forward.
Yeah.
Seems to be their attitude, so that's unfortunate for the people who invested in FrSky early.
Yeah. And I'll also say that I am pretty sure that Tony Cake was pretty annoyed at his conclusions that Ghost was not as consistent as it would have hoped to be. I think that there is more testing going on in more controlled environment, because Mark just had these black box logs sent to him by random people, so there's no actual control. But I think that more testing will be done to see if these results play out in more controlled environment. So anyway, nice.
Cool.
All right.
It should be mentioned, that's not about, a lot of people are mentioning in chat that Tracer has had another update, and there's a lot of differences with consistency there. And, you said Tony Cake had an issue with the consistency results of that. I think one thing to point out is that, especially with Ghost and Tracer, those are very new systems. So I would not expect that like the thing you see this week is the same thing you'll see next week even, because the rate these systems have been updating and changing and getting new patches and finding new bugs and all these things. So I would say, you can take these with what they are, but it's very possible that, you might see different results, better or worse, depending on your situation. Like you said, if these are user results, maybe they're worse or better, depending on the user situation and not in a controlled environment where everything's the same. Yeah. But that's something the user is going to experience. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I know that Tony Cake specifically is rabid about fixing bugs and making improvements, especially. And I know that there's people out there who own the Immersion RC lap timer, the lap RF, and they're like, oh, really? Because he hasn't updated the bugs in this freaking Android app for the lap RF in years. And eventually they open source the lap RF and we're like, we're just not working on this anymore. But for a new product like Ghost, he has been completely rabid about making these updates. And I'm sure that TBS is the same way, that if there is actually a result that shows that they're underperforming relative to FrSky, they're just going to fix it. So we shall see.
100%.
All right. Well, from something serious to something maybe a little more fun, have you got a spare FetTech ESC and flight controller laying around? I know, right? Just you took out of a quad?
Well, if you do, that won't help you, because this needs the FetTech Mini AIO 15 amp.
No. I was trying to segue. No, you can't. You have to basically buy a whole FetTech flight controller and ESC for this project. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it is only the FetTech Mini AIO, so it's an all-in-one 15 amp that FetTech sells.
Okay.
That builds this little car.
And let's see, we got some video of this up. It's a little drift car.
Yeah, so this is just a 3D printed frame, 3D printed wheel covers on some little motors with the FetTech AIO. And it'll drift around your house. It's pretty cool, man. It
looks fun, but my question is, I mean, can I just go buy a little 1/28 scale drift car? And why should I buy this instead of just buying a little drift car? I'm not trying to be a hater.
Because it's cool, because you get to do a project, because you can say you have a drift car with KISS on it.
I mean, I guess that's cool.
Yeah. It seems like a neat project to me.
I agree. It's a neat project. It would be a neater project. Like, you remember, Blunty, when everybody was turning their tiny whoops into little hovercraft?
I don't think I was around for that.
Yeah, it was a little while back, and you could take your tiny whoop and you kind of move the motors and basically, and it would just, with a little 3D printed part, turn it into a hovercraft, and you could race your hovercraft around. And the idea was if you had a spare tiny whoop that you weren't flying, you could do something fun with it. This would be more appealing to me if it was like that. But, okay. Hoovers, yeah. Before we go on, we do have a super chat that came in. There's not a ton of super chats for the news. People just like to listen to us talk, I guess. But we do have a super chat from Andrea Bonesci. Why is the standard size for a tiny whoop 65 millimeters? I find 75 millimeters to fly better. I mean, that's just what size the original Inductrix was, right? And then people started trying bigger stuff to get more performance out of it. But that's what I think. Anyway, thank you, Andrea, for that super chat. Let's go to the next project. The next item on the agenda, Blunty.
Yeah, so we've got a new project from Onward FPV, the Racer 4LA. This is basically the revival of the failed Kickstarter for the Racer 4 Street that DRL did. This is definitely not associated with DRL. That's one. I think everybody wants to make that clear. This is another chance for people to, get in on the same idea as the Racer 4 project, and get your own version of a Racer 4. But this won't be exactly to DRL spec, obviously, but this is going to be similar. He's going to get the weight similar, the size similar. This will be like a full size Racer 4. It says he's got custom electronics that he's working on doing with this. So I'm interested to see how this goes. I think the biggest question I have about this project is like, where's all the information? Because there's just a few paragraphs here. I kind of like to see where it's actually at. What do the electronics look like, and how is it going to be set up, and what are end costs look like, and how long is the time frame, and like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I would like to be really clear that we're not endorsing this project by putting it on the news. And if this guy takes your money, runs away, and disappears to Mexico, I don't want to hear about it. Just saying. I mean, I don't think he's going to do that. I don't know him. I don't know anything about it. Just thought it was an interesting project. But they would put that disclaimer out there. My first thought when I saw the Racer 4 Street was, who wants to fly a Racer 4 except a DRL pilot? Because they're big, they're heavy, and they kind of fly like crap. They fly like school buses.
Right.
except for just the novelty of knowing you own a Racer 4, which I guess that's going to appeal to some people, I don't see the appeal.
Yeah, I think like spec racer is kind of the only thing. Like to me, just the way that you're doing with tiny trainers, people will do spec races with these, I assume as well.
Yeah.
The one thing that I would say when you fly a heavy, I think a similar thing happens with the tiny trainer. When you fly a heavy quad, like for its class, and you're trying to race it efficiently and quickly, you're more throttled to the wall. You're more like cutting corners and like finding a line, I think, than you are with like a super fast light quad. Like a super fast light quad, you're like dipping in and out, dipping in and out, dipping in and out. But this, you're like finding a flow and a line, and you're learning more about racing. That's what I would say.
I've noticed. I will say I've noticed that when I fly the DRL sim, with a DRL sim, you basically, if you're flying the Racer 4 in the DRL sim, you basically go full throttle at the beginning of the race, and then you never lower the throttle again for the whole race. And if you do lower the throttle, you screwed up and you're going to lose. And that's completely unrealistic, first of all, but it does force you to fly the other 3 axes as efficiently as possible, because you cannot use the throttle to make up for a mistake, and it trains you how to fly the other axes. And I do think there's something to that. I guess that's true. We should point out, where's this comment? Telhama42 in the chat says Mike B has been selling Racer 4 LA parts for over a year now, so that certainly would suggest that he's not going to take your money and go to Mexico. So
yeah, I've actually seen one of these. I just wasn't sure if it was this, but I'm almost positive it was this actual frame at one of our local races that one of the racer kids here had. So seems pretty well built, the one that I held. So seems pretty neat.
Vizzy says DRL racing feels better than fast racing like multi-GP. Maybe DRL racing is a little better for that's something that Vanover said when he got into DRL. See, I just said, why would anybody want to do this? Now I'm going to come up with 7 reasons to disagree with myself. Vanover said that DRL is a more like a strategic style of racing, because it is not really based on twitch reflexes like multi-GP style racing, that you need to race smooth, efficient, and fast and not make mistakes. And I guess if you want to build a DRL Racer 4, then, well, you're still not going to have anywhere to race it, though. It's not like there's a Racer 4 spec race other than DRL.
Right. Well, there wasn't a Tiny Trainer spec series before the Tiny Trainer either.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. Hey, you never know.
That's what I would say.
Anyway, if you want to get in on that, there's a link to the GoFundMe in the show notes, and you could become the first supporter. There are currently no supporters, so it's also a GoFundMe, not a Kickstarter, so I don't think it even says, what are you going to get for your donation? I don't know. He just wants you to give him $15,000. Okay. Well, good luck with that. Anyway.
Yeah, so moving on, in the other new product vein, here's a frame you can buy and put stuff on. So the Micro Apex. They released a 3 and a 4-inch version of the Apex frame. They're both the same frame. They just got 3 or 4-inch arms. It seems really cool. I mean, a lot of people, I think, were looking for something like this. The price is fairly reasonable, especially compared to like a 5-inch Apex, I think.
Yeah, well, most things are.
Right.
Sorry.
Looks like the 3-inch frame is coming in at 58 grams with hardware, and the 4-inch is 61 grams with hardware. So.
Yeah, I remember Aaron Ciotti was flying a Micro Alien, a 3-inch Alien, at one of the trips I did down to Atlanta. And there's a lot to be said for a micro quad in the 3-inch size. I'm just putting up the different pictures here. There's a lot to be said for a micro quad in the 3-inch size that is built more like a traditional freestyle quad instead of more like a toothpick. It certainly is easier to build, having a little bit more of this style of frame. And it flies a little bit more like a bigger quad, which some would see as an advantage, some might see as a disadvantage. But
yeah, my first quad that I built was a Micro Alien from Ciotti's recommendation.
Really? I didn't know that.
And it's a blast. I think they're great. It feels like a little 5-inch. It's a super hardcore basher. The video I think that helped Ciotti get more popular. That video he did at Quad Camp, where Matty flipped the table, was on that frame, the Micro Alien.
It was. That was his original claim to fame, was that power loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that little frame. So yeah, this seems to be in the same vein, just with the Apex kit. So.
And
That's pretty
I'll
cool.
I'll say I've been flying the Catalyst Machine Works Shocker 4-inch and really loving it. I think that 4-inch freestyle, I mean 5-inch freestyle is obviously great, but especially if you're trying to get under 250 grams, I don't know if this frame will get under 250. The Shocker struggles to get under 250, but I think it can do it. 4-inch is 3-inch you feel it. It flies like a 3-inch. 4-inch you can almost convince yourself you're flying a 5-inch. Not quite, but almost. So cool. Anything else we need to say about them? ImpulseRC Micro Apex.
I think just a reminder, they do offer a warranty on the Apex frames. I'm not sure if most people know that, but like the Apex has a 2-year, the Micro Apex has a 1-year it's like a crash warranty. So if you break your parts, you message ImpulseRC, you work out whatever with them, and then they send you the part for free. You just pay the shipping.
People in the chat are asking why no one ever talks about the TBS Source Micro. So here's a little shout out to the TBS Source Micro. Hard to go wrong for $10, I guess. Doesn't have interchangeable arms.
Ooh,
It's
yeah.
definitely not as pretty, but it probably gets the job done.
Yeah, that's the industrial frame. That's what I would call that.
Yeah. Well, the source frames kind of are, but for $10, hard to go wrong for $10, I guess. Anyway, shout out to TBS for that. Let's see here.
Well, you brought up TBS, so let's talk about their new release, the TBS Agent Lite.
Good. Well, good segue.
Yeah. So they released last night on a live stream, I believe, or this morning on a live stream, and their new TBS Agent Lite program. So it's essentially a Crossfire Lua that runs on your OpenTX or Freedom TX radio, but it's much nicer. It's like their version of a Lua. You know, it's like they call it Agent Lite because it's supposed to be more fully featured. And it seems like, what I would guess and what it seems like they're hinting at is it's sort of a platform for them to move forward and do more things like this.
Yeah. So you'll be able to configure maybe like firmware upgrades and so forth. I don't know. Maybe Wi-Fi connectivity, download firmware over Wi-Fi. And
most likely. It sounds like if everything's going good with this, like based on feedback, maybe even as early as tomorrow, we'll get another announcement from TBS. With some extra features that they'll enable or some extra things they're going to roll out with this. But, you know, in the traditional idea of TBS, it's going to be at least like, you know, within the 2-week time frame, I think.
Well, I mean, I think there's some real potential here, and I'm just totally making this up. I don't know anything. When we talk about DJI, I say I don't know anything, but with TBS, I think everyone will believe that they don't give me a lot of inside information. But but what I was going to say is, wouldn't it be cool if they used the TBS cloud? Like, let's say you want to update the firmware on your Unify. I don't know. Do you even do that? Update the firmware on your Fusion module. What if you could take your Tango 2, put it on the Wi-Fi, download the firmware to the Tango 2 SD card, and then flash it to your Fusion module over Wi-Fi as if TBS Agent X were living in the Tango 2. It feels to me like that's the direction they're going by naming it TBS Agent Lite.
Sure. And if this is I think an interesting angle for them to go, and it makes a lot of sense, you know. Again, I always think it's cool that TBS is trying to make progress in the hobby, and it seems like this is another way to do that. I know the Lua has never been super perfect for everybody, and there's been compatibility issues possibly, or different things like that, and now this is kind of a TBS version, so you don't have to worry, hopefully, as much about that.
Yeah, Lua scripts have always been a little flaky, so this is pretty exciting. Even if it's just their existing Lua script, but less flaky, I'd take it.
Yeah.
So you can download that as a zip file. It's a Lua script. You install it to your SD card, and you run it, presumably from the tools menu, like you run any other Lua script, and you can give it a try. And it's still brand new, so it may have some bugs and stuff, but TBS will presumably keep working on it. So let me get a couple more super chats out of the way. Grilled Cheese FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. Just asks how I'm doing. I'm doing good. Dwight T says, how about a bobcat? I'm not sure what he's referring to. He was talking, this was back when we were talking about the micro alien. How about a bobcat? Is that a frame? I don't know.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Well, thank you, Dwight T, for suggesting a bobcat. And thank you, OGK Tur K Pidker. Thanks for $1. Oh wow. Okay. Sorry, I got to show this. Look at this.
Oh, yep.
That's freaking slick right there, boy. That's no Lewis script. That's an app, baby. Wow. On the X9D. How about that? That's really slick. Oh, yeah, I see. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, it looks good, man. I'm happy that they're doing this, making the progress. Yeah. I think like a lot of things, if you don't, I guess at this point, maybe, here's a good question. Do you think the competition is driving this? Or do you think this is something TBS would be doing anyway because they're TBS?
I see where you're going. Like, I feel like I lean more towards the second half. TBS has, like, there are companies out there who, if they are, like, okay, let's just point the finger at Fat Shark. Sorry, Fat Shark. That if they are in a strong, dominant position, they don't feel as much incentive to innovate, and they are happy to just not take the risk of innovation and continue to develop a solid product. Let's just be as generous as possible to their motivations. When you innovate, you're taking a risk, you'll screw up, maybe you just want to make something good. And then somebody comes along and starts eating your lunch, and you're like, oh crap, I better get off my ass. TBS has never felt to me like a company who they seem really driven to do new cool shit. If you look at like Ghost versus Tracer, I think that's a place where they are feeling some heat. I'm sure they would say, "Oh, heat! What are you talking about? We're so far ahead of them. Give me a break." Okay. And then maybe you'll see some being driven by competition. I don't know about the Lewis script. Dominic Clifton says no one does anything unless there's competition. I mean, aren't there people out there who just like doing cool shit and would do it for their own, motivation?
I think the thing is you have to luck into that, right? And then most people who would get into a position where you're running a $1 million company or a $100,000 company or whatever, right? If you're running that company and you're nice enough to not do the best business decision and instead start to give people benefits and make innovations in a market you don't need to, it is possible that like you would look at that as somebody who's not going to be like in business forever. But also, like, if you innovate forever, if somebody does come out, you're really good at innovating. Like, you have a lot of practice in innovation, and you understand, like, here's how we iterate, and we've done this before, and we know how to QC with new facilities, and we know how to source new components, and we've been through this. Like, I also think that is a good thing to learn and be experienced with as a business. So maybe they're just, like, already set up perfectly to be in this.
Yeah, you're 1,000% right that the ability to innovate is a skill that you can hone or that can wither. And like if you look at a company like Orca, they are very quick to innovate and they've been able to bring out stuff at a very fast pace. DJI, I mean, they are able to do it. Even though DJI has essentially unlimited money, it is still so impressive how fast they bring out new products and how good the new products are when they come out. And that's a skill. So, yeah, TBS definitely does not seem to just rest and do nothing, for the most part, on their products. Yeah. Thank you, Julian Vincent, for a $5 happy belated birthday. It was my birthday yesterday, Blunty. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, well, happy belated birthday as
Thank you very much. I'm 46 years old now.
46 years young.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Next, TBS Agent Lite. Oh my God, we're to the last item on the news. Oh, perfect. The timing is just about right. We could probably rant about this for 15 minutes. Let's start by talking about what is AirMap. An AirMap is an app that you can run on your phone. It's one of a few that fulfill this function. And basically it tells you if it's legal to fly where you're at. In addition, if you're using the LAANC system, the LAANC LAANC system, you can actually get airspace authorization from the FAA or from whoever. Yeah, to fly, like let's say you're going to fly in Class D airspace near an airport, and if you have authorization, you can fly up to 200 feet. You can request that authorization using the AirMap app. You get the authorization, and you're legal to fly. Or if you're just like, huh, is it safe? I don't know. Can I fly here? Oh, no, there's a prison right nearby. Do not lift off. Oh, okay. Oh, so AirMap are pretty good guys, right? You would think.
Well, you would think so. And up to this point, I think they have been. But really, it seems like what's happening is they're pushing, they put out some comments, they are pushing local municipalities to use their system to charge for their UTM services, which are their UAS, I always forget what it stands for.
What's UTM? Yeah, I don't know that one.
It's UAS traffic management. There we go.
There you go. There you go.
But yeah, so their UAS traffic management systems, they're actually asking municipalities to charge for takeoff and landing, and to add fees onto that for users who would use those apps in their cities or states.
Yeah. So the idea, I guess, is that AirMap knows when you take off and land. I don't know how they know that. Maybe they're talking about DJI. The DJI app is integrated into the AirMap app. So if you're in the DJI Fly app and you want to fly your Mavic and you need airspace authorization, you can link out to the AirMap app, but get the airspace authorization, and it'll go and tell the DJI app you're allowed to fly. And I guess, I don't know exactly how all the pieces would fit together, but they're saying, hey, city of Knoxville or whatever, would you like to charge people a fixed fee every time they take off or land a drone in your city? We can make that happen for you.
Possibly flight taxes or something too, depending on how the laws would work. If they're calling, it depends on how this works, right? If they make you use AirMap to take off in the area because that's a DJI service, and then AirMap decides that, like, to use the AirMap service, you need to pay over a tax for each minute you're on the AirMap service or something. Like, if it's all integrated like that, I don't know that anybody really has a lot of a choice.
What incentive could a city or a county or local government possibly have to do that?
So UAV Tech says in the chat, I'm not sure municipalities can control airspace, and so
they cannot control airspace.
Yeah, my point in this is that AirMap doesn't have to. You don't have to control airspace. You just have to control the takeoff and landing of the drone with AirMap.
Bingo.
And
takeoff and landing can.
It,
yeah. Sorry,
man. You're kind of just screwed.
Fired up.
Yeah.
You can't regulate. Only the FAA can regulate the airspace, but the local municipalities can regulate takeoffs and landing. And that's another question that was asked in the CSMIC Fool in the Discord asked, is that even legal? So right now, they can. The city can say, you may not take off or land an SUAS in this park, and that is legal for them to enforce. If you take off from outside their jurisdiction, you may fly into their airspace, and there is not a damn thing they can do about it. And that's true, even though there have been cases where laws have been passed trying to do that. Those laws should be struck down, even though sometimes they haven't been. But they absolutely can control takeoff and landing, just not flight.
Yeah, and then another thing to look at this is so even if they can't control the law, so UAV Tech says a public street or public waterway, right, which is like a public service, so they may not be able to control that takeoff and landing at all. But what they could do is control the AirMap usage. So you could just say, regardless of the law, we're not going to let you use AirMap here because AirMap decided you can't use AirMap here. And if that's the case, then any drone that's restricted by use of AirMap won't be able to be used regardless of what the law is or who has jurisdiction. I think that's part of the issue.
CSMIC Fool goes on to make a point, which I'm not sure about the point, but he says this seems like a really murky area. And I guess I kind of agree. It's possible that depending on how this was implemented, it would be illegal and maybe it would be struck down. But to me, the thing that got me super fired up, and also Vic Moss is one of the guys, he's actually on the Drone Advisory Committee now. He is calling for a boycott of AirMap. I guess the point is, whether it's legal or not, it's shitty of AirMap to screw us over. Yeah. To be like, hey, everybody, use our app to get your airspace authorizations. I mean, everybody knew that they were going to make money from it one way or another, but to say, hey, you want to charge everybody $1 every time they take off a drone? We can make that happen. It's like, hey, you suck.
507RC points out that originally AirMap was created as no-fly zone, which was intended to have people pay to create no-fly zones over their house or company. So it seems like maybe they've kind of flipped this around, and now they've instead said, we'll just charge for where you can fly.
Yeah. We got some comments over on this thread. Apparently there's another app called Kitty Hawk. I've always used AirMap. I didn't use Kitty Hawk. Maybe I'm going to switch to Kitty Hawk, though. Or is that the same? I don't think it's the same app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know one thing I'll say is that I know that if Vic Moss is calling for the boycott on this, I feel like it at least has some basis. Like, I don't think he would be calling for a boycott on a service like this without looking at the law behind it, since that's kind of his thing.
Yeah, that's true.
I would guess that there is at least some basis for them to do this kind of thing, and that's why we want to shut this down as soon as we can.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah. That sucks.
Yeah.
The good news, here's the good news. Okay, I'm going to try and put a positive spin on it. AirMap, if you are flying a DJI drone and the DJI app says, and it will do this right now, if you try and fly your Mavic Mini in Class D airspace, it will say, I will not take off. It'll refuse to do it. And then you can go out to the AirMap app, get your airspace authorization, and then it'll be like, cool, now you can fly. So it would be really trivial for that to be extended. For example, now I don't think DJI, by the way, I don't think DJI is the bad guy here. DJI has had many opportunities to screw FPV pilots over for the last year plus with the FPV system. They haven't done it yet. Doesn't mean they're not going to do it, but so far I feel like they have earned the benefit of the doubt. But let's say that the city of Knoxville says you may not take off a UAS in the city of Knoxville without paying $1. At that point, AirMap can say, DJI, you're breaking the law. You need to help comply with this. I don't know. Maybe they would roll over. But if you're flying an FPV drone, what are they going to do? They can't stop you from taking off. Screw you. So.
Yeah. Well, they could stop you from getting Lance, but I guess if you're not paying the fee, you don't care about Lance anyway. So, it depends on how you're going to look at it like that.
That's true. Yeah. If you were going to do a commercial operation or if you wanted to be completely legal, I guess you would want that authorization. I mean, I'm Class G airspace where I live, so I don't get Lance authorization when I fly anyway. So, anyway, thanks AirMap, and screw you.
Download Kitty Hawk, apparently.
Kitty Hawk. I'll be switching over to Kitty Hawk, I guess. All right. Well, that's the end of the news. Should have some happy thing to go after the shitty thing to end on.
Right.
Thank you, Dwight T, for a $10 super chat. It was the Armatan Bobcat he was talking about. That was the Bobcat. Star Stripes Jacket, thank you for $2. Star Stripes Jacket is pointing out there's also a mobile app on the App Store now, the TBS Agent M, which lets you manage your TBS stuff over with your wireless, with your smartphone. I don't know how exactly it does that. You plug it in? I don't know. Oh, that's a good idea. Let's do a couple of Vanover reaction videos to close the stream on a positive note, on an upbeat note. You know what I'm talking about, Plenty?
I do, yeah. That was the Rampage video? Is that right?
Vanover did an amazing power loop at Rampage. The Rampage pre-fly. They went out and checked the site out. And I literally jumped out of my seat and left the room in the middle of a live stream. Where's my frickin'... It must be on my business page. And I said, edit in other things to that reaction. So let's watch a couple more of those for the last 5 minutes. And then we'll be done with the news. I have to find the link, though.
Dominic Clifton wants to let everybody know if they are interested in SP Racing H7 RF ExpressLRS FC prototypes, hit him up on the ExpressLRS Discord. So definitely do that.
Yeah, I mean, oh, it's not loading. It's like, I don't know if I want to. Oh, there it goes. It loaded. Let's see. There you go. My funniest edits of my reaction to Vanover's power loop. I did a couple of these on the live stream on Sunday. So let me scroll down and find out. Let's watch a couple more. Let's see. We'll work our way up from the back. Oh, no. Benjamin Pingleton. I think I already saw this one. Let's see if I saw this one already. That wasn't even the good... Here we go. Let's see. Good Vanover Power Loop Toxic FPV? So this is the original footage. Oh, we got to see the good one. All right, we'll stick around for the good one. Now we cut in his own footage here. Here's Vanover. This kid thinks he can fly. He's okay. Bubby, you watch Daddy Vanover. No, you son of a... No, shut up! This was my actual reaction to Vanover's power loop. Oh, how about one more? What else we got? Reaction to my first year edit. Where's the good one? Oh, we got to see the good one. All right. Stick around for the good one. Oh, no. No music, no music. Oh. This is actually pretty good flying. Like, I wanted people to edit in, like, weird stuff or crap stuff. This is actually pretty good flying. I don't know if I would jump out of my seat for it. It was a pretty amazing power loop. Oh, man. Anyway. Oh, building dive. Yeah, not bad. Anyway. All right. Blunty, thank you so much for coming out, do the news with me.
Of course. Yeah, it's always good. Every Tuesday. Always having a good time. If you guys at home have any news you want to submit, make sure you're sending that to news@fpvknowitall.com so we can get it on the news. If we missed something, it's your fault, remember?
That's right. You need to let us know. Where's the cat? Which one is the cat barfing one? Hang on. People want to see the cat barfing. I don't know. Oh, yeah, it's this one. Oh, yeah, this one we're going to go out on. All right, hang on. Yeah, send news to news@fpvknowitall.com for sure. And Blunty, you're going to be streaming 6 p.m. tomorrow on your channel. Link in the video description.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be on my channel tomorrow, 6 p.m. MST. Link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to Joshua Bardwell and give this video a thumbs up or a thumbs down, depending on how you liked it.
Thank you.
We love that interaction. Throw a comment down at the bottom when it posts the video. It really does.
I need you to help me shill for YouTube. I never do it. And the other thing that we needed to put in the news is that the release date for the DJI V2 is going